As our Macquarie University Mentors program is university-wide, we support all new students. So with this brings great diversity to our program, and our program involves mature age students, international, domestic, undergraduate and postgraduate students. So the great thing about having such diversity is that you're able to learn so much from other people. Not only fellow mentors, but your mentees have a lot to offer you as well. So embrace this great experience, but there's a few things that we need to make sure we all understand. So in this module, we will consider the importance of being culturally aware, how we communicate across cultures, upholding confidentiality, and we will also go through some common concerns for new students. So there are a number of issues concerning culture to be mindful of and to think about when interacting with new students. And firstly, culture affects everyone. As individuals, we are all influenced by culture, and we all express culture in the ways we behave, think, and communicate. But the degree to which culture is taken on and expressed is different for every individual, family, community, region, and society. For example, you have two mentees who are from the same country. One may dress in traditional fashion because it's of cultural importance to them, whereas for the other mentee, this is of less cultural importance. So all individuals have differences. Life would be so incredibly boring if we were all exactly the same. So while understanding culture gives us useful clues about an individual, family, or community, everyone is different. So we can think of culture like an iceberg. Just as an iceberg has a visible section above the water and a larger invisible section below, culture has some aspects that are observable and others that are less observable. So we call culture that we can observe surface culture, and this makes up only 10% of an individual's overall culture. So what does that mean for us, and why should we care about culture? Well, in the role of a mentor, it is so important to understand that what you observe is only a very small portion of a person's culture. So differences between new students may be due to this underlying 90% of culture that is less observable. For example, if a new student is struggling with an assignment and they are hesitant to go and seek support, this may be a component of this less observed culture, which is what we call deep culture. As you can imagine, deep culture is much more complex and reflects an individual's core values. Since we learn what is good, right, desirable, and acceptable, as well as what is bad, wrong, undesirable, and unacceptable, this is why in many cases we see a cultural group share similar core values. And how we interpret our core values under the surface of our iceberg is reflected in our behaviours, which we can observe above the surface. You'll also notice that communication styles and rules sit just below the surface, since these are not always observed, however can be if you're paying really close attention or if the individual's communication style differs greatly from yours. When we're dealing with students whose English language skills are limited, there's a number of things that we can do. So definitely listen attentively, explain technical university terms, keep language simple and use short sentences, speak slowly and clearly. Remember that you're engaged in a dialogue rather than just needing to get your message across. Make the message visual if you can. Check that the message has been understood, ask questions and be patient, and give people plenty of time to respond. Recognize the influence of culture on communication styles and meanings. For example, the degree of directedness or indirectedness, formality and informality, non-verbal cues or body language. And remember that languages are structured differently to English, and some English terms do not have a direct translation. A very useful thing that you can do is to ask direct questions. For example, have you finished signing that form? Rather than, you haven't finished signing that form yet, have you? And a really great thing that you can do is to learn and use some words in your mentee's native language. So now that we know what we can do, what should we not do? So we definitely don't shout, mumble, or speak really slowly, show impatience, and we definitely do not replicate the student's accent. In our program, we take confidentiality very seriously. Confidentiality builds trust, and it exists when a student entrusts their mentor with information that they are confident will remain private. Confidentiality is important to the mentoring relationship because it builds trust, respect, allows an honest relationship to grow, and encourages the student to talk about things that they may not feel comfortable telling others. With that being said, some information cannot be kept confidential. You will be required to disclose confidential information to the mentor's team staff should we request it, or if you are concerned for the safety of the student or others. It is critical that you tell us this information as soon as you feel there is a need for concern. Even if you are unsure, please tell us. We are not only trying to support the new student, however, we take your safety as a mentor very seriously as well. If a new student says that they want to tell you something, but only if you keep it a secret, you can assure them that everything they tell you will be kept in confidence. However, there may be times that you may need to share that information to help the student. Let's now talk about some concerns of new students. We can break concerns down into 4 different areas: transition issues, academic life, university life, and relationships. So when thinking about transitional issues, there is a stress of making a good adjustment because students believe their future depends on them doing well. Did they make the right choice, and how can they be sure? Some students will be homesick, missing their family, friends, and pets. They will miss old routines and structures. The university may not live up to the expectations set by brochures, and rarely does a university tell people about the ins and outs and the limits and shortcomings of the place. The aspect of academic life is a really large area for concern for new students. The work is hard, and some students may experience their first low grades. Most students have done well in high school or in their careers and are returning as a mature age student. Most high school courses are not as demanding as university. So a student has to learn a particular professor's expectations and style of grading. Students will be expected to maintain their own schedules and develop good study habits. There is no one around to force the student to study, to go to class, or to get a good night's sleep. Students have to create a structure that works for them, and time management is a skill that can be learned or improved through work. Students may become excited about whole new areas of study and may change their career goals and major plans. And this may be difficult to relay this news to parents who may be surprised by the news. While many classes are small, some students may feel overwhelmed by large classes. They may be the youngest in the class or the least experienced in the subject matter. And many students are used to being the oldest and the brightest, and this may be a big shift for them. Some academics or tutors may not be as excited and challenging as students thought that they would be. While some professors are interesting lecturers, some are not. Some lead discussion classes and expect students to do a good deal of the talking, and this may be a challenge for quieter students. Some students may have trouble with reading and writing assignments. The level of writing required may be higher and in greater quantity than what was expected in high school or in their careers. Some readings may be more complex and difficult than expected. Assignments may require several readings and much more time than students allot. Students may develop anxiety about their performance. Students may really like their tutors or may not. If they have a tutor they don't get along with, they will hesitate to ask the tutor for help. and most tutors work well with students, but occasionally personalities don't mix well. Students can change advisors. Communication is key here, even if the personalities don't match. Just being at university and getting involved in university life is an area of concern. There is a maze of things to figure out, such as which courses to take, who to get to know, where to go for this or that. A lot of energy goes into trying to make sense of a new environment, and students may feel confused and bewildered from time to time. As you would be aware when you first started university, universities have a vocabulary and rituals that are new and unique. Concepts such as deans, professors, academics, and tutors may be new. Students dress differently than in high school or in their careers. Some students may feel pressured to dress a certain way to fit in. There are also many choices that the student can be overwhelmed and may not complete projects and tasks. There are so many clubs, organisations, activities, courses, lectures, sports practices and concerns that it's sometimes hard to decide what to go to. Work can suffer if the student is spread too thin. A new student's relationships may change. They may be leaving friends behind to pursue their tertiary education. In some cases, old friends will go their separate ways rather than keep in touch, and this may surprise and sadden some students. Students will be confronted with a variety of different people from different backgrounds. There are cultural differences, racial differences, and differences in sexual orientation, religion, values, and lifestyle. It can feel overwhelming to start over with new people. It can be hard to make new friends. It also gives students a chance to develop a new identity. There will be feelings of acceptance as well as rejection. Coping with new ideas, new people, and the possibility of rejection takes energy. There may be troubled students who want to rely on you. Some students may be very emotional, distraught, and needy. This can be really damaging and take a lot of time and energy. A new student may have changes in their relationships and family members. A student may not be aware of the certain expectations families have, or they may be highly aware. Both cases can put stress on a student.